I pursued Soren for 5 years, I loved him as if my life depended on it. The night I was summoned to pick him up, I got into a car accident. And he was holding his new darling in his arms, drinking and reveling with his cronies, using me as the wager. I didn't show up all night. He only truly panicked when the hospital called. After the car accident, I remembered everything, except for Soren. But Soren, who had always been distant, cried and begged me. Mara, please, don't stop loving me. What he didn't know was that I had already stopped loving him long ago. I chased Soren for 5 years, in that time the women at his side changed one after another, and his grandfather Victor grew impatient and issued Soren an ultimatum. I was the one who had accompanied Soren the longest. Of course, in the awkward role of childhood companion. Put kindly, a childhood friend, less kindly, a nanny. Soren always knew I liked him. I was obedient, sensible, and presentable, so he chose to propose to me. In the noisy, chaotic KTV, Soren impatiently ended a call from Victor and, like beckoning a pet, curled a finger at me. No flowers, no grand solemn ceremony, only a ring I couldn't bring inside. Soren didn't even ask me whether I was willing to marry him, he just grinned cheekily. Mara, you know how my old man is, he's a pain. Do me a favor, will you? The Sang family had been kind to me. And I had loved Soren for 5 years. Why not marry him? I nodded. Amid the jeers of Soren's friends, he forced the ring onto my ring finger. The ring was far too small, my knuckles felt constricted and aching. It hurts. Soren didn't even glance at me, and said impatiently, "You're being dramatic. If you hadn't put on weight recently, would it be impossible to get it on?" Soren's words set off a ripple of laughter, a crowd of people were pointing at me and whispering. Mostly they echoed Soren, calling me fat, calling me an orphan, calling me a pitiable hanger-on of the Sang family. I bowed my head to look at my plainly jointed hand and smiled wryly. It wasn't that I was fat, it was just that Soren didn't love me. I don't know why, normally I can endure it, but in that instant I suddenly didn't want to. I flung the ring onto the bottle, it burst into a spray of liquor. I slammed the door and left. Maybe Soren felt his pride bruised, he chased after me and grabbed my wrist. Mara, I've already agreed to marry you, what more are you causing a scene for? See? When an obedient person offers the slightest resistance, it's called making a fuss. I felt exhausted and was about to say I wasn't causing a fuss. A scantily clad, sultry woman cried out in surprise, "Soren!" I recognize this woman, her name is Serena, Soren's ex-girlfriend, the one who once dumped a beer on me because she relied on Soren's favor. Soren had long grown tired of her, so he treated her coldly and indifferently. After losing face with Soren, Serena turned on me. "Oh? Who do we have here? Isn't this the Sang family's little housekeeper, following him here too?" I pulled my wrist back, ignored Serena's provocation, and replied flatly and without emotion, "So it's Miss Serena. You and Mr. Soren can talk, I'm leaving first." Soren was just about to call after me when Serena clung to him. I walked out of the KTV doorway, the street was bustling, and behind me there was no one. "Mara, why can't you let him go? Are you still clinging to that promise?" I went to sleep heavy with questions and in a daze. Late at night the lights were on, Soren was drunk, and he held me fast in his arms. "Why did you leave just now? You know full well that Serena has feelings for me." I stared at his alcohol-clouded eyes and spoke each word slowly. "Because of me, I don't want to humiliate myself anymore." Something struck Soren, his eyes cleared in an instant. He straightened up, and the motion of throwing the jewelry box seemed laced with irritation. "Tisk, Mara, why are you so grudging? You just wanted the ring, right? Here, take it. Stop making a scene." True to form, Soren hit the mark with every line, slicing right through me. The ring tumbled out of the jewelry box and onto me, the diamond flashing. I didn't put it on, instead I silently returned it to the box. Soren had never made me feel so frustrated, he warned me. "Mara, playing hard to get once or twice is enough. We're going back to see the old man and the others tomorrow, don't screw this up for me. I quietly wiped the moisture from the corner of my eye and, compliant, slipped the ring on. All right. Early in the morning, Soren sped me off to the Sang family's ancestral home. I get carsick and hadn't had breakfast. By the time we arrived at the Sang estate, my face looked terrible. Even Victor, with his reading glasses on, could see it, but of course Soren couldn't. Victor glanced at Soren and then at me. He sighed softly and patted the back of my hand. Mara, you know Soren's condition, it's not something you're unaware of. You'll have to put up with him. Soren's ears pricked up and he was immediately displeased. Grandfather, why are you talking as if I'm sick? I just had a checkup a few days ago, the doctor said I'm in excellent health. Looking at the elderly man before me, I couldn't help but remember how fond he had always been of me, and I swallowed all my grievances. Grandfather, don't worry. I will. During the meal, Victor learned we were getting married. Smiling, he handed me a card and said it was to be my dowry. I have no father or mother, I can't let outsiders look down on me. I couldn't refuse, so I took it, a strange feeling flickering through my chest. Soren caught my expression and, unsurprisingly, assumed I was vain. He looked away in disgust. I opened my mouth to say something, then suddenly felt there was no need. What was there to explain? He didn't love me, any explanation would be pale and pointless. After dinner, Soren and I were heading back to the apartment when he took a call mid-walk. It was a coquettish female voice. Mr. Soren, new fun tonight, Cloud 999, be there or be square. Going back to the apartment wasn't on the way to Yunchang, so Soren dropped me at a sparsely populated intersection. His hand rested casually on the steering wheel, and there was a clear sneer in his eyes. Didn't Grandpa give you that much money? Take a cab yourself. With that he strode off, leaving me breathing his exhaust. There were hardly any people around, forget cabs, there weren't even many private cars. I pulled out my phone, 4 bars showed only one, and the map page kept spinning. I turned the screen off. Fortunately, I could still scrape together 2 yuan. Limping on my twisted ankle, I finally found a bus stop. But I waited a long time and the car never came. It was still a middle-aged man driving by who couldn't stand it and rolled down his window to tell me, "Young lady, don't wait. This bus stop was removed long ago." I felt like the camel finally broken by the last straw. Soren's bullying didn't make me cry. Walking almost 10 kilometers in high heels didn't make me cry. But this kindness from a stranger did. Soren, why do you treat me worse than a stranger? The man pushed the car door open and fumbled, flustered. Hey, little girl, don't cry. Where do you live? I'll take you home. My little girl is the same age as you, it's so dangerous for little girls to be out here by themselves. At that moment, my tears fell like beads broken from a strand. If only I had a father. I didn't go back to Soren's apartment, I went to my best friend Nana's house. By the time I arrived it was already evening. Nana cleaned my wounds while scolding me, and after scolding me she scolded Soren. My phone, which had auto-turned on after charging, rang and cut off Nana mid-rant. When Nana saw the call was from Soren, she snatched my phone and decisively hit speaker. Mara, Grandpa's got your back so you're feeling bold now, huh? What are you doing roaming around so late? Nana immediately fired back for me. Hello? Soren, do you have any heart? Do you know how long it took her to get back to the city after you left her and she twisted her ankle? I'm telling you, Mara's eating well and living well with me. The farther away you are, the better. Don't come bother our Mara. There was silence on the other end for a long moment. Nana called twice more but got no answer, so she hung up. I had finished my shower at Nana's and was about to go to sleep when an urgent doorbell sounded from the living room. The visitor was Soren. He was carrying a plastic bag of medicine in his right hand, leaving no room for argument. Mara, if you don't want Nana to get fired, come back with me. Nana wanted to stop him, but I feared getting her in trouble, so I decided to go with him. As we walked slowly, Soren and I stared at each other in silence until he finally broke it. Mara, let's go pick out wedding dresses tomorrow. I thought he would scold me and humiliate me again. I didn't expect him to think of something as trivial as choosing a wedding dress. After all, I had prepared myself for Soren to be absent the whole time, even at the wedding. He stared at me for a long time, oblivious even when the traffic light turned green. I slowly uttered one word. Okay. The next day, Soren somehow procured a wheelchair and insisted on pushing me to the bridal shop. When we were pushed into the store, several attendants cast envious, jealous glances my way. To them, Soren was handsome and the only son of the Sang family. Marrying him was every girl's dream. I tried on gown after gown, and Soren was still not satisfied. Until I put on a strapless mermaid haute couture dress called Heart of Devotion, and a flash of astonishment crossed Soren's eyes. This one. Soren handed over his card and paid, and I was ushered into the fitting room to change. I couldn't pull the zipper. I reached with all my strength, lost my balance, and my wheelchair toppled. Soren heard my cry, rushed in and lifted me up. The shop manager immediately came out to apologize, and the sales assistant who had deliberately left me alone in the fitting room was fired on the spot. Soren stood up for me. He thought I would be touched. Little did he know I'd already seen the messages on his phone. Mr. Soren, you can't seriously be planning to bring Mara back into the family, can you? What do you know? I'm just doing it to placate the old man. Soren and I were set to be married in 2 weeks. Victor had promised him that he'd relinquish some power after the wedding, so lately Soren had been busy not only with the wedding but also with company matters. But he came home on time every day, and sometimes he'd pick up the little cakes I love on his way back. I didn't take it seriously and just went along with Soren every day. Until one day, a text message shattered the strange balance between us. I'm pregnant. It's Soren's. If you don't want to make this a scene, 3 p.m., the rotating perch. I'll be there. It was from Serena. I glanced at my watch, 2:30 p.m. No rush. By the time I reached the rotating perch it was already 5 in the afternoon. Serena paced anxiously, eyes darting. I took a sip of coffee and went straight to the point. All right, how much do you want? Serena's surgically altered face twisted even more. She ground her teeth and said, 50 million. I'll abort the baby and never show my face to you again. I opened my balance and set my phone in front of her. I don't have 50 million, only $50. Want it? Serena couldn't believe it. That base of a head took a long moment to register. Mara, are you kidding me? I took my phone back, expression cool. That baby isn't even mine. If you want money, go ask Soren. I grabbed my bag, ready to leave. Serena shouted after my retreating back, unwilling to accept it. Mara, do you think you've won? I'm telling you, the little cakes he brings you every day are the leftovers I didn't like. Oh, no wonder, I thought the little cakes had started tasting worse. Back home, Soren was working on the sofa. I handed him Serena's ultrasound report. Actually, if you wanted to keep this child, you could. Soren tore the report up without even looking at it. The fury in his eyes could have burned me alive. He didn't seem angry about Serena's pregnancy so much as about my attitude, and he grabbed me roughly. Mara, why have you been looking half dead lately? I've been fixing it, why can't you see? I almost laughed out loud. His fixing meant fixing it by sleeping with Serena? Soren, didn't you tell me to stop making a fuss and be sensible? Oh, by the way, the perfume on your collar smells awful. Also, that bakery's cakes are truly terrible, don't buy them again. Soren's face went white inch by inch. Serena's pregnancy ultimately reached Victor's ears, and the result was that Soren was not allowed to leave the house before the wedding, while Serena vanished with the child. The day Soren was punished by family law, Victor beat him on the back with a cane. How can you live with yourself like this? What about Mara, you'll regret this. No one expected those words to become a prophecy. Soren and I had our wedding photos taken when the wedding was held. I wore the Heart of Devotion while facing Soren, who treated me like dirt. How ironic. The wedding officiant recited the cues by the book. Mr. Soren, do you take Miss Mara to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, in poverty and in plenty, till death do you part, to love and to protect her? The room fell silent, waiting for Soren's answer. But he didn't reply, he merely looked at me with a teasing expression, making me uncomfortable. All the guests' gazes, like lasers, fixed on my composed, indifferent face. It wasn't until Victor's cane struck the floor with a loud clack that Soren grudgingly answered, I do. The officiant breathed a sigh of relief, smoothed things over, and, with hopeful eyes, turned to cue me. If I said I didn't want to? The moment the words left my mouth, the room erupted, even Soren looked stunned. I laughed and looked at Soren, enjoying the way his face contorted from being put in his place. All right, it was just a joke with everyone. Only I knew it wasn't a joke. I hadn't expected Soren to take it seriously. That night, he gripped my waist hard and asked me again and again, Mara, why don't you want to? Is this to get revenge on me? I admit it, your goal has been achieved. The next day, unsurprisingly, I slept until well past mid-morning. Even at lunch, Soren's and my ears were still flushed. After this, Soren seemed truly different. There were no more flitting paramours at his side. No more unpleasant perfume clung to his collar. Once, after getting drunk, he held me and murmured, Mara, I think I really love you. I was stunned. But you had told me you loved me many years ago. Soren and I met in childhood. Back then, everyone knew Soren was in love with me. But the good times lasted barely 3 years, his parents' accidental deaths dealt him a devastating blow. Then he changed. I looked at the sleeping Soren as if nothing at all had shifted. On Monday morning, because my parents' illnesses might be hereditary, I have routine checkups every 6 months. But the result was that I was pregnant. I hadn't wanted this child, after all, I didn't want any further entanglement with Grandpa Victor after his death. But the doctor said, your endometrium is very thin, once you have an abortion it's going to be hard for you to have children again. At that moment, I suddenly felt something stir in my lower abdomen, and my heart instantly went soft. Perhaps Soren had a right to know. So I simply took out my phone. Come home early tonight, I have something to tell you. This was my last chance to tell Soren. Back home, I made a big spread of dishes. 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. The food had gone stone cold, but Soren still hadn't come back. I dialed the familiar number out of habit. The first time it was met with a mechanical busy tone. The second time, a woman answered. Hello, are you trying to reach Mr. Soren? My heart died once more. I calmly hung up the phone and silently threw away all the dishes. The phone rang again, this time it was Soren. He said he'd gotten drunk at a social event and wanted me to come pick him up. But lies will eventually be exposed. Because the call hadn't been terminated, I heard the whole bet. I couldn't bear it any longer. I grabbed my keys and the prepared divorce papers and rushed straight to the bar. I never got the divorce papers into Soren's hands. I was in a car accident. Before I slipped into unconsciousness, countless images flashed through my mind, yet Soren was not among them. Strangely, my soul briefly left my body and drifted over to Soren. Soren, why hasn't Mara shown up yet? Looks like after marriage she's got you completely under her thumb. Soren held the lover he'd just met, his face troubled, calling me over and over. All he got in response was a busy signal. As he stepped out of the bar, Soren heard people talking. Hey, did you hear? There was an accident at the intersection ahead, apparently it was a pregnant woman. Tell me about it. I heard there was blood everywhere, how tragic. I nodded as if I agreed, I was indeed quite pitiable. I thought if Soren knew I was going to die, he would be pleased. Suddenly I saw Soren end the call, and his expression changed abruptly. I had never seen Soren so flustered. Proud as he was, upon learning about my miscarriage and that I was still clinging to life, he knelt at my bedside, nearly breaking down. Mara, I beg you, come back to life, come back. I floated in the air. Soren, those who break their promises must be punished. I slept for a long time. When I woke up, I no longer recognized Soren. I asked him, "Who are you?" That question unhinged the man. He almost stumbled out as he ran away. The doctors concluded the car accident had caused traumatic amnesia. He might remember, or he might never remember for the rest of his life. So he began obsessively insisting that we were a happily married couple. "You say I'm your wife, then show me one of our photos." The ironically funny thing was, he emptied his phone and couldn't find a single one. If we were married, how could there not be a single photo of us together? He had no energy to argue, left speechless. After that, Soren had to face a harsh truth. He remembered everything. I remembered everyone, yet I alone had forgotten him. Just as he had once forgotten me. Soren began trailing me like a little lapdog. Wherever I went he followed, as if terrified I'd slip up. I shooed him away, but he always brushed me off by saying we're married. He just annoyed me, unbearably. Then get a divorce. He looked like a child whose toy had been snatched, eyes reddening as he pinned me against the wall. "Mara, you can ask for anything, just don't think about divorce." I pushed him away in disgust. "Are you kidding me? Do I look like a teenage girl? I'm not falling for that wall-pinning move." Out of the corner of my eye I saw the pained expression on Soren's face, and I felt nothing. I even wanted to laugh a little. "Soren, this is what you deserve." I really had lost my memory. But 3 days after I woke up, everything came back to me. I began to use my amnesia as an excuse to take revenge on Soren with abandon. And Soren let me knead and flatten him, silent as ever. Could it be that he remembered too? Actually, I wasn't an orphan. I had both a father and a mother, and my parents were longtime friends of the Sang family. After my father died of a strange illness, my mother wasted away and died too. It was the Sang family who adopted me. At that time his parents were still alive, and Soren was the sun in my sky. He said, "Mara, you have no family, from now on I'll be your family." I rubbed my tear-swollen eyes. "We're not related by blood, how can you be my family?" The boy smiled, a smile that dazzled an entire youthful season. "I'll marry you, won't that make me your family?" I remembered that smile for a very long time. But everything faded away like a mirage. Soren witnessed his parents' deaths with his own eyes, and the trauma struck him deeply. Grandfather Victor sent him to a psychiatric hospital, and he stayed away for half a year. By the time he returned, he didn't remember me. Because the moment he saw me, he was reminded that he too had become an orphan, and he even put all the blame on me. "Mara, it's all your fault, you brought bad luck to the Sang family." But I couldn't say anything. The doctors told us not to provoke him, otherwise he would break down and develop a split personality. At that time the little girl could only stupidly ask her doll. Why, Soren remembered everyone, but had forgotten me alone. Yet back then I never imagined that Soren would remember me. We had already gotten ourselves into this state. I was discharged from the hospital, and Soren took me back to the apartment. My gaze fell on the ultrasound report on the coffee table, a sharp sting passing through me. Soren held my fingertips, trembling slightly. "Mara, we'll have children again." "No. Never again, Soren." Soren took me to place after place where our memories lived so I would remember. For all these things he did ahead of time, I really did feel like I had lost my memory. It wasn't that I didn't remember, but that I didn't want to. I wanted to say, "Soren, don't bother, you can never wake someone who's pretending to sleep." Passing that bus stop, I suddenly no longer wanted to be entangled with Soren, even if it meant holding the upper hand. I told Soren to stop the car, pulled him to the bus stop, and asked him out of nowhere, "Soren, do you know this bus stop is abandoned?" Soren looked puzzled, not knowing why I asked, and I didn't wait for him to answer before speaking for myself. That day I walked 10 kilometers to get here, and people I passed told me this place has been abandoned. Do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, what exactly did I do wrong? Why do you, Soren, treat me worse than a stranger? Let's get a divorce, I'm serious. Soren was silent for a long time. Mara, actually you've remembered everything, haven't you? I nodded. It wasn't really that I remembered everything, I only recalled the bad things and forgot the good. Grandpa Victor also learned the whole truth. He no longer forced the issue and instead gave me 10% of the shares. He said that from now on I would be called his biological granddaughter. Grandpa, I'll always be your family, just under a different identity. After Grandpa agreed, things became much easier. Soren and I arranged to meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau on Monday. But on the day to handle the divorce at the Civil Affairs Bureau, Soren vanished again. How ridiculous, before his disappearing acts were to get rid of me. Now, his disappearing is to keep me from leaving him. Pathetic. Soren reappeared 3 days after he disappeared, unshaven, his eyes rimmed with red. The moment he saw me, he shoved me hard into his arms. Utterly degraded. Mara, I'll do whatever you want, please, don't stop loving me. He didn't expect my reply to be so crisp. Fine. Soren, that was your line. I agreed to Soren that we wouldn't divorce, temporarily, but I never agreed not to live apart. So I moved out of Soren's apartment and rented a 1-bedroom that was neither too big nor too small. Nana came over to help me decorate too. The room was simple but felt much cozier than the big flat. I thought I wouldn't be able to sleep, but I fell asleep right away. Here, I sleep with peace of mind. I've been living in the anxious gratitude of the Sang family's kindness to me. It was warmth, but also a shackle. I decided to start a new life, beginning with finding a job. Soren and I went to the same university, my grades were even better than his, and after graduation I became Soren's nanny. At the time many HR people lamented that I hadn't entered the workforce. I mustered the courage to send my resume to the companies that had shown interest in me before. Soon enough I received replies from several, inviting me to interviews. I walked downstairs and found Soren smoking pensively in his Porsche. When he saw me his face lit up. Mara, I promised not to bother you, but a week has already passed. A week already? So time can fly like that. Back when I was waiting for Soren to change his mind, days always dragged. Soren had offered to drive me, but I refused. Still, I took the keys to the Porsche and doused him with water and his own stench. Now I want my actions to match my will. Unexpectedly, my interview went smoothly, and I successfully landed the dream company's offer. As I stepped out of the elevator, someone called after me. It was that ice-cold interviewer. Mara, congratulations on finally returning to the workforce. I stared at him for a long time, then exclaimed in surprise, Senior? His name was William. In college he and I were on the same team, we were known as the male and female Juga, and we won quite a few awards together. Back then, I quit my job. William even tried to dissuade me, but I couldn't hear him at the time, and gradually we lost touch. After a long time, William invited me to dinner. During the meal he skirted around, probing into my relationship with Soren. I said lightly, "Oh, we're getting a divorce." After I spoke, William's eyes flicked, barely perceptibly, toward my back. Then he reached for a napkin and tenderly wiped the grease from the corner of my mouth. I stiffened instantly. "What are you doing?" The stars behind his lenses were as still as a deep well. "I'm merely giving you a little help with your divorce." When I drove the Porsche back downstairs, Soren had been waiting for a long time. He'd completely lost his composure and demanded to know who that man was. I took it calmly. "Just borrowing your Porsche to pick up a handsome guy, nothing excessive, right?" Soren's explosive temper had finally subsided. "If punishing me like this makes you happy, I'll accept it gladly." He paused. "But, Mara, you can't fall in love with anyone else." His words were swallowed by the winter wind, scattered away with a single gust. That weekend, after a full day of overtime on Friday, Nana mysteriously said she had a surprise for my onboarding and tricked me into going to a KTV, where there were 10 male models. It was indeed a surprise. I had no idea how many months of Nana's salary it must have cost. I thought we shouldn't waste the money, so I let the 10 male models take turns singing. It was unlucky, enemies meet in narrow streets. I went out to take a call and ran into Soren's old gang of pals. So Soren witnessed with his own eyes the sight of me surrounded on all sides by 10 male models. "Soren, do you want me to forgive you just a little?" That line drained all the fury from his eyes. I handed one of the models a glass of red wine and pointed at Soren. "Pour it on him." The model recognized Soren and, naturally, didn't dare step forward. I glanced up at Soren. He spoke with a stern face that today's incident would be forgiven, and the male model, eyes barely closed, poured it over Soren's head. Watching Soren's discomfiture, I smiled with affected charm. Such a fine young master, actually begging others to humiliate you, truly a rare sight. I could clearly see the anger blazing in Soren's eyes, yet he only asked me cautiously, "Mara, are you calm now?" I suddenly lost interest and told him coldly to get out. Soren walked out of the private room, dropping the jaws of everyone outside. His humble courtship of Mara had instantly made him the joke and gossip of that circle. Normally proud Soren pretended not to hear. I couldn't anger him. So I thought of someone. Someone before whom a proud, haughty man like Soren would have to hang his head in shame. I called William. "Hey, want to make a deal?" That day, arm in arm with William, I flung the divorce papers onto Soren's desk. "Sign them. I don't love you anymore, dragging this out is pointless." Soren's sharp gaze dropped to the hand I had looped through William's. The veins on the back of the hand stood out faintly, and he tore the papers into pieces. I shrugged indifferently. "Soren, then we'll have to go through the courts." I walked away with a swagger, missing the depths of meaning in Soren's inscrutable look. After work I just wanted to get home quickly. I kept feeling Soren wouldn't let this go. Sure enough, in the underground parking garage, Soren dragged me into the Porsche. He started driving like mad, the sports car tearing onto the mountain roads in the suburbs. The jolts from the ride made me almost vomit. "Soren, stop, please stop." Soren looked at me in the passenger seat, my face already white as paper. A flicker of pity crossed his features, then was replaced by madness. "Mara, say you love me." I bit my lip hard, refusing to utter a single word. "Mara, you forced me into this." The car sped up, the only thing I could hear was the rushing wind whipping past my ears, and then the crash came. In the last moments of life, Soren yanked the steering wheel hard toward me. In a daze, I saw the young Soren running and calling to me. "Mara, Mara." Soren was dead. I was the one who gently closed his eyes. Out of a sense of gratitude to the Sang family, I attended Soren's funeral after being discharged from the hospital. Victor handed the household register to me without a word. In just a few days he seemed to have aged 10 years. I held the register between my fingers. I smiled. I am Mara. Not divorced, only widowed. In fact, even if that big truck hadn't appeared that day, Soren would have died. I had tampered with the Porsche, and I had also prepared to jump from the window and run. With the only grandson's unexpected death, Victor planned, while his body still allowed it, to bring Serena's son back and raise him. The burden of going to fetch the child fell on me. But what I brought back was an infant's death certificate. I steadied the tottering old man and lifted a look of innocent smile. "Grandfather, the Sang family's fortune was stolen from the Gu family to begin with. How can you not consider me? After all, I'm your granddaughter, aren't I?" My father did not die of illness. He was framed by a trusted elder as having committed suicide. My mother did not wither away quietly, she was driven to death. She traded her life for mine. I once loved Soren, that's true, but I also hated him to the bone. His mental illness was something I provoked, otherwise why would Victor have had him taken to a psychiatric hospital? Sure enough, Victor was not to be underestimated. After he returned, Soren did seem like a different person, but Soren hadn't accidentally forgotten me, his memories had been sealed by the hypnotist. I checked the records. Only in that situation does forcibly restoring memories lead to a split in personality. Over the years, who knows how much Victor thought I knew, he kept watch over me, and I kept watch over him. My acting was pretty good, though. He actually believed I would give up my revenge over Soren and those small mercies. In truth, I had thought about stopping. The moment the child kicked me, I suddenly didn't want my child to become an orphan too. But the ways of the world are full of twists and turns, leaving everyone with their regrets. I laid everything out plainly, and Victor was so furious he suffered a stroke on the spot. While his mind was still clear, I held him down and forced him to sign the adoption papers. That made me officially, and unquestionably, the sole heir of the Sang family. The next day, the financial world was in uproar, the headline reading, Sang Group's helmsman stricken after only grandson's sudden death, former daughter-in-law's adopted daughter Mara may inherit Sang Group. I was peeling an apple for Victor when the news broke. Though his face was slack and his speech slurred, a sliver of awareness remained, a single tear welled at the corner of his eye. "Grandfather, I know you're hurt. But rest assured, I'll take care of the Sang family." I bent down and whispered, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, actually Serena's son, your grandson, is not dead. He'll probably never know he's a member of the Sang family, and even if he does find out he'll hate the Sangs. After all, it was you who killed his biological mother." Victor's lips trembled. I had reduced him to a state of shock. After resuscitation he became a vegetable. Outside, the throng of paparazzi squatting by the door witnessed my hurried displays of filial piety. I curled my lips. Now I had ascended to the position of CEO of the Sang Corporation, and there was no more opposition from the outside world. And the few restless souls on the board, after witnessing my abilities and methods, fell silent. After I took office, the first tough problem I faced was negotiating a big deal with the Bo family in the Beijing circle. I was told I was to meet the Bo family's eldest son, the future heir of the Bo clan. When the chair turned, it was William. This was my first time meeting William since I became CEO of the Sang family, and I didn't expect that the illustrious eldest son of the Bo family would greet me with only one line. "Hey, Mara, you can't just use people and not take responsibility." Soren's perspective, after I died, I didn't leave immediately, instead I stayed by Mara's side. In the end she softened, she closed my eyes with her own hands, and even came to my funeral. Only after the funeral did I learn exactly how much the Sang family owed Mara. I hadn't known that everything I had received was won at the cost of Mara's parents' bodies. This was the second time I felt I didn't deserve her. The first time was when she had a car accident and lost the baby. So when I watched her anger the old man to death and inherit the Sang family, I felt an inexhaustible sense of relief. After all, this was something both I and the Sang family owed her. If my death could bring her happiness and forgiveness, then I think I would truly be worth it. Only she still believes the car accident was just an accident. I loved cars so much, how could I not know the engine had been tampered with? Since she wanted me dead, I followed the arrangement she made for me and chose to die. However, I altered her plan slightly. That way, she wouldn't risk going to prison nor be burdened with guilt. After all, my Mara, though she armed herself to the teeth, still had a soft heart. She didn't kill the children of Serena and me, she sent them abroad with a large sum of money. Half a year after I died, she was with William. William loved her more than I did, and the two of them lived happily. Because of her health, it took them 3 years of marriage to have a child. It was an adorable little girl. The three of them were reunited and joyful. I went blank. If the child between Mara and me had been born, wouldn't they be 5 by now? Wouldn't they be this adorable? Could we have been this happy too? But there are no ifs in this world. Seeing her so happy, I thought it was time for me to go. I'm going to hell, to atone for Mara.